Data is everything to us in statistics. It's what we're going to use to draw inference. It's what we're going to use to get estimates. It's what we're going to use for everything. So what is data? Well, it's all the information that we get from the people in the sample that we would like to know about the people in the population. Now, what we typically get when we collect data is something called variables. So we want to take measurements or observations on the people in our sample. So we have two different kinds of variables that we can get. The first one is called categorical, and the second one is called quantitative. So let's talk about what those are. The categorical variables that we can collect are those types of variables that are going to put people into groups or put things into groups. For example, gender. You're male or you're female. You get put into a certain group. Color. Maybe color of car. Most cars are usually one color, so they're silver or they're red or they're green or they're white. So they get put into a specific group. Year in school is another example. You're a freshman, you're a sophomore, you're a junior, you're a senior, you're a grad student, etc. Okay, these are all things that place people into different groups. It's not a measurement though. Okay, there's no numerics involved. However, sometimes you can see categorical variables in what we call coding. Coding means we've put numbers with the different groups. Now it can get a little bit confusing because when categorical variables are coded, it's very tempting to think that they're numerical type of variables and to do things like means and standard deviations that we shouldn't be doing on categorical variables. So you want to be careful. The way that you want to look at this is, can I rewrite these numbers using a different configuration or using words? If you can, it's categorical. So, for example, let's say we have gender and it's coded 1 for male, 2 for female. We could just as easily rewrite that as 1 for female and 2 for male. Because we can switch those numbers around, that's a categorical variable. The numeric value that's given to gender has nothing to do with gender itself. We could just as easily also write that as just male and then female without the numerical coding. The other type of variable is quantitative. Now this one is a numerical quantity, and when we have quantitative variables, we're going to treat them differently as far as displaying them and finding summaries for them than we do categorical variables. So that's why it's important to make the distinction between categorical and quantitative. Quantitative ones are numbers that actually have a meaning. For example, your score on an exam. Okay, if you get a 70%, that means something. You've done better than people who have gotten a 60%, and you've done worse than people who have gotten an 80%, for example. Height. If you're 66 inches tall, that's how tall you are by a measurement. You're shorter than someone who's 68 inches tall, and you're taller than someone who's 65 inches tall, and so on. It doesn't make sense to rewrite people's height and say, well, this person was 66 inches tall, but I'm going to rewrite that and make them 3 inches tall. That doesn't work because it's actually a numerical quantity that we've gathered through a measurement, okay, not an observation. Typically, categorical variables are observed, or you ask someone, what's your favorite color, or something like this. Quantitative variables are measured. Okay, so you ask somebody, what is your height, or you measure their height, or something like that. Those ones have the numerical value that you can verify by taking an actual measurement or something like this. So it's very important to distinguish these. When we get into the next lecture, we're going to see different types of displays for different types of variables. And it's very important that you use the correct display for the correct variable type, and that you describe variables correctly. Otherwise, you'll be doing things like finding the mean of a gender. What happens if you come up with 1 1/4? What does that mean? It has no meaning. There is no 1 1/4. Is that a quarter of the way away from male and 3/4 of the way away from female? You can see it won't make any sense. So we'll have to be very careful making sure that we categorize our variables correctly. Is it categorical? Is it quantitative? And then based on that, that we pick a correct display and a correct numerical summary.